Suppose I have a data set with two independent variables here, x1 and x2, and right away we can say that this is a two-dimensional data set, and I'm easily able to make a scatter plot out of it because it's very easy to have a two-dimensional scatter plot. You have one variable on the x-axis, the other one on the y-axis, and even things get a little more confusing even when you're playing with three-dimensional. So objects that are closer are going to sort of look bigger, and the objects that are further in that dimension are going to look really, really small. And so that's one way of sort of saying that, these things, these points, set of points, are different from each other. But it gets really, really hard as you add more dimensions. So this is going to be a 3D thing. As you add more and more dimensions, and you're going to lose the ability to sort of visualize what the data looks like. So even in this case, let's say I had 2D and I really, really wanted to reduce the dimension of this data set. So from 2D, I wanted to go to one dimension. So from 3D, I can go to one dimension or two dimension. 2D is good. And if you remember the assignment where we had 10 features for a song, then that is 10-dimensional data set, and it is currently impossible to actually plot it in a scatter plot because how many orthogonal sort of axes are going to make? There's one over here, one over there, and you sort of get the idea. So in this case, I am also able to use a methodology and reduce this 10-dimension to maybe 2-dimension. And it will be very, very easy to plot this out and see what the features are like for a song on a scatter plot. So this whole process is called, so from reducing from one dimension, multiple dimension, to one or two or lower dimensions, is called dimensionality reduction. I will preface by saying that it does not change your data at all. Instead, it makes it so that you're sort of transforming your features for visualizations. So your features x1 and x2 are going to be there too. They're going to be influencing what the one-dimensional region sort of looks like. And so if we look at an example, so if 2D is a plane, right? 2D is a plane. One-dimensional is just a line. So let's say I make this vector here and I call it W1. So what I'll be hoping to have from this dimensionality reduction is that if I were to make this vector here, I would be hoping that all of these points are sort of now imposed on that line. So this point is over here. These 2 points are going to end up over here. Then you have this point, these 2 points, and finally these 2. So we went from 2 dimensions, 2 features, so let's say age and height, and we found out a way to make a one-dimensional vector out of the 2. So you'll notice that these points didn't really change. So the difference between these 2 are sort of far away, and here you'll notice the same. These 2 are close, they're close here too. And there's a huge gap between these 2 points, and you'll see a huge gap here too. So I'm not changing my data, I'm only transforming it. I'm sort of moving it around for you to be easily able to view what the data is going to look like in a lower dimension. Now this vector, W1, is going to be influenced by x1 and x2. So again, I'm not changing the data, I'm only transforming it for visualizations, and the transformations are affected, they're influenced by my original data set. So if I go from 3D, sort of, let's say I go from a 3-dimensional, so these are closer points, these points are far away. If I go from 3D and reduce my dimensionality to 2D, it might seem that I have these points over here and these points over here. So I've removed one of the dimensions here. And so it would be really, really cool to see what our data looks like, instead of 10 dimensionalities, because we can't really visualize that, instead to see how our songs are like in 2 dimensions. And I'll highlight the point here again too, that the vectors that I make to reduce the dimensions are going to be again influenced by the original data point. So this 2D plot that I make for my songs, you might not understand sort of that how I was able to do that, but I can assure you that let's say if this was W1 and this was W2, these were the 2 vectors that I made, then W1 could be influenced by the loudness of a song and maybe the tempo, and then W2 could be influenced a lot by, let's say, the energy and maybe 2 more features. So dimensional error reduction is a way to sort of reduce the dimensions of a high order data to a lower order data in order to visualize it more efficiently and actually a productive way. And one of the main methods of performing dimensionality reduction is called the principal component analysis, also known as PCA, and that's the topic of this video: to be able to use principal component analysis to perform dimensionality reduction, to go from a higher order data to a lower order data, so we can actually visualize what it's like. I'm going to define PCA as the eigen decomposition. It's going to be a lot of linear algebra terms here. Decomposition of the covariance matrix. Covariance matrix. The covariance matrix X transpose X. So the idea here is that, say if you had your data set like this, and it is currently in the form of a matrix, and you have n samples, so n different data points and m features, which is just the number of independent variables, then I can say that this matrix is rows by column, so n by m. I'm going to keep using this notation here to, it'll make it life easier to sort of understand how the reduction and where it is happening. Okay, so the covariance matrix X transpose X, and we know that the transpose of, let's say, this matrix V is 1 and 2. The transpose of that will basically just mean that you convert the rows into columns, so you're going to get 1 and 2 here instead. So in this case, if X was n by m, and then we're going to reverse that. For the transpose, it's going to become n by n, and the product of this is going to give you a square matrix, an n by m matrix. And the way I've computed that is that I will basically knock off these inner n's here, and I'm going to just take the first and the last dimensions, and that's going to be the dimension of the product here. One more thing to note is that these 2 inner dimensions need to be the same to be actually able to do multiply 2 matrices together. Okay, so if I were to perform the eigen decomposition on this covariance matrix, it's going to give me 2 different things. It's going to give me W and lambda here, and W is the matrix of the eigen vectors, and lambda will give you the matrix of the eigen values here. And I'm not going to go into how the decomposition is happening and what they basically are doing in this step, but the takeaway is that the eigenvalues, these lambdas, are going to give you how much variance is explained in the data in the direction of their corresponding vectors here. And that's basically what we're looking for. So think of it as an example. Let's say I have say 4-dimensional data here, and the points are sort of here and scattered over here. if I were to reduce this 4-dimensional to 2-dimension, let's say something that looks like this, I am hoping that this transformation does not change how the points behave in relation to each other. So these points that are close together should also be clumped together. And these points that are really far away from this set should also be far away after I reduce the dimension. So in order to do that, in order to maintain this integrity, we're basically looking to find features and properties that explain the variance in our data. So if we're able to extract these eigenvalues, which tell us how much variation is happening in the data in this direction, then we should be able to use them. We should be able to use them to sort of compute how the reduction is happening. And that's basically what we do. So what we'll do is we'll say that I'm going to write in red that the transformation for now is all of our data points times this vector of this matrix of eigenvectors. And this matrix is going to be m by n, so square matrix again. We know that our x values are n by m here. And so again, by the whole notion, I'll knock off the m's and we're going to end up with an n by m matrix. You'll notice that this is the same number of dimensions, or so this is the same data set as our original data set here. So I haven't really reduced anything yet. What I've done is I've sort of maybe rotated where the points are sort of around the different axes, and that's going to help us because here what now I'm saying is that instead of me showing data points on the space of these features, they're now being put on a space of the eigenvectors. And what that helps us do is that this step basically allows us to reduce how many dimensions I want, because if I look closely at W here, it is a square matrix, and what every single column of that matrix is an eigenvector. So you have W1, W2, W3, all the way to Wm here. So this whole column is just the first eigenvector, and you're gonna have all of them. And because we know that the eigenvalues basically give us the variation in the data in that direction, we also get, it's very interesting that this matrix is ordered on the basis of the responding eigenvalues. So whichever has the highest eigenvalue will come in first. And what that means is that W1 explains more variation in the data set than W2, W3, and all the way to Wm. And similarly, then W2 will explain more variation than W3 for all the way forward. So if I say that I really want to reduce this 4-dimensional data into 2 dimensions, then I only need to pick the first 2 eigenvectors, because they're both explaining the most variation in the data set. So if I pick these 2, what I'm hoping to get is that this set of points that are far apart and are dense within themselves will also be visualized in 2 dimensions as the same set. So these guys will be clumped together, they will clump together here, and there's going to be a huge gap between them. And so I will change my transformation again. I will change it to now be give me all the data points, but let's say give me the first k eigenvectors. And so in that case, your x is still n by m, your w of k will become m by k, right? So k different features, and finally you will get n by k. Now, one thing to note here is that this was your data set and this is the transformation, so you still have the same number of data points. That hasn't changed. But instead of having m different features or m different independent variables explaining your data, you're now reducing it, assuming that k is very small then compared to m, you're reducing your data set to now just being explained by k different features. So instead of you saying that, let's say, if you're using the songs example, the songs data set that I provided you guys, it had 10 different features. And it was really, really hard to be able to make a scatter plot for all 10 of them to see where the clusters or the genres of songs are. I'm able to then reduce it and say that T is going to be whatever my data points were, W of 2. So in the end, I should be getting, let's say, W1, W2 in our data set. So that's sort of what I'll be getting. I can also call W1 and W2 my PC1, PC2. So they're, again, principal components. But the idea is the same, that I'm able to pick out the first k eigenvectors, which I know are ordered, so they explain the most variation of data, and use them to transform. A final piece in the video lecture is going to be about the actual algorithm that you can use, that you can apply to run PCA on your data set. And the first step is basically going to be a pre-processing step. And the way you'll do things is, first, you're going to be trying to standardize. And then you're going to apply mean normalization. We have seen standardize before, and the idea is that if I had age, height, and let's say test score for a student, and we know that the age might go from 0 to 100, the height might go from, let's say, 0 to 8 feet, and the score might go from 0 to 50, let's say. These are all in different scales. What you want to do is standardize them so they're all on the same scale. Let's say the age 0 to 100 is scaled from 0 to 10, same for height, and then same for score. That's going to really help PCA do its magic. The second thing you need to do is mean normalize your data set. So think of it this way: mu j, let's say, is going to be the average to m of xj. And so for all of your columns, let's say for age, height, and score, you're going to calculate their own individual averages. And for each data points, you're going to replace the actual data point with the data point minus the mean. What this does is, if you were to take the mean of this guy, it will basically mean that the mean is 0, right? You're moving everything over the origin. So all of these are mean normalized. Again, because PCA is working a lot with vectors, you want to sort of move everything to the origin, sort of scale it back or scale it forward, and this step will allow you to do that. The next step, of course, is to perform the eigen decomposition. And we've already seen what that does. And then finally, we're going to do the reduction. And if the eigen decomposition basically gives you your vectors W, what you're going to do is you're going to transform your data and just pick out the first k eigen vectors here. So pretty simple algorithm. The pre-processing step is really, really crucial, especially the normalization part of it. What we'll do in class is that we'll look at actual examples of using a data set and use the scikit-learn library to reduce the dimensions of a data set.